When the autumn sun dipped low over the city's red brick orphanage, its golden light would slide across the courtyard, catching in the dust and making it shimmer like a memory someone had forgotten to sweep away. That courtyard was the last place Emma remembered seeing her younger brother, Liam, before the world split them apart. They had stood there, hand in hand, barely understanding the words the adults kept repeating. New family, placement, separate homes, nothing can be done. Emma had been 13 then, old enough to grasp the horror of losing the person she had promised their mother she would protect. Liam, only 9, had simply clung to her sleeve, asking whether they would be together for dinner that night. They were not. The van that took him away had smelled of gasoline and pine-scented air freshener. It was the pine she remembered the most. 4 years afterward, whenever she walked past a Christmas market or a hardware store all filled with lumber, the sting of pine would claw her chest. She had cried quietly for a week after he left, then loudly for many nights after that, until one of the caretakers said something sharp about disturbing the other children. So she learned to cry in silence, biting her lip, pressing her pillow over her face. For Liam, the separation had been less about understanding and more about the disappearance of something he assumed was part of his daily life, like losing a shoe or a favorite toy but never finding it again, and gradually realizing no one intended to replace it. But even at 9, he knew Emma had been the anchor of his world. Without her, everything else drifted. 10 years passed. In that time, the world reshaped them both. Emma grew into a young woman who carried a quiet toughness inside her, like a thread of steel woven beneath her skin. She moved through life with the persistent feeling that something was missing, an invisible weight in her pocket she kept checking for out of habit. She had gone through 2 foster homes, neither cruel nor affectionate, just functional. Eventually, at 18, she aged out of the system and found work as a barista, then as a bookstore clerk, piecing together something like stability. She rented a small apartment above a bakery every morning. The smell of fresh bread would seep through her floorboards and remind her that life could still feel warm. Liam, meanwhile, had bounced through more foster homes than he could count. Some had been kind, others merely tolerant. He learned early how to read people, the tilt of a voice, the twitch of an eyebrow, the mood that filled a kitchen. These skills became a shield. By 13, he had become the kid who never asked for anything, who learned to cook simple meals so he wouldn't bother anyone, who helped younger foster children with their homework because it gave him something to do with the ache in his chest. At 16, a social worker matched him with a family who saw not just a quiet boy but a thoughtful one. They loved him in a steady, patient way that took him years to fully trust. Still, every birthday, he would ask the same small question. Any updates on my sister? And every year, the answer was the same. We're still trying. In truth, the system had lost track. Paperwork misplaced, records moved, caseworkers reassigned, small administrative errors that piled into a wall neither sibling could climb. So life pressed forward, and the memory of each other became something they carried alone. Liam sometimes wondered if his memories of Emma were real or invented, the way children shape dreams into recollections. Was her hair truly the reddish-brown he imagined? Did she actually sing him to sleep on stormy nights, or had he made that up to fill the silence? Emma never doubted her memories, but she feared Liam no longer remembered her. That thought hurt more than the separation itself. Then, one early spring morning when a thin mist curled along the river, everything changed. It began with a letter. Emma found it wedged between bills and grocery store flyers in her narrow mailbox. The envelope was plain, the return address a social services office in a town she had never visited. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, her pulse thudded louder than her footsteps. She set her laundry bag aside, tore open the envelope, and unfolded a single sheet of paper bearing a short message. Your brother, Liam Carter, has requested contact. If you consent, we will facilitate a meeting. She read it once, then twice, then pressed the paper to her chest. The bakery downstairs began its morning symphony, mixers whirring, ovens thumping shut, but Emma heard none of it. She sat at her tiny kitchen table and breathed in, out, in again, half afraid the world would disappear if she moved too fast. Her hands trembled as she signed the consent form and mailed it back that afternoon, almost running to the postbox as if the letter might evaporate. For Liam, the moment had begun differently. He had been sitting at his foster father's desk, pretending to study but really scrolling through message boards about tracking lost relatives. His foster father, Michael, had gently placed a stack of old caseworker notes beside him, notes he had spent hours digging up after Liam confessed how much he missed his sister. Liam had skimmed through them with the growing, unfamiliar sensation of hope blooming behind his ribs. And then he saw it. An old placement record with Emma's last known address as a teenager. It wasn't much, but it was enough to send to social services with a request. He didn't expect anything to come of it. So when a letter arrived 3 weeks later saying she wanted to meet, Liam had stared at it so long his foster mother, and asked whether he was feeling sick. He nodded, because in a way he was sick with joy, fear, disbelief. He felt 12 again, sitting on his old bunk bed, whispering Emma's name into the dark so he wouldn't forget the sound. The meeting was scheduled for a Saturday afternoon, in a quiet city park halfway between their towns. Neutral ground, the social worker said. Familiar enough to feel safe, open enough to avoid pressure. Emma barely slept the night before. She lay awake listening to the bakery below, to cars passing on wet pavement, to her own heartbeat thudding like a fist against the inside of her chest. She tried to imagine Liam as an adult but could only picture the boy she had braided friendship bracelets with, the boy who'd insisted spiders were tiny house guardians, the boy who'd tuck his head under her arm during thunderstorms. Liam spent the night pacing his bedroom, practicing what he might say. "Hi, Emma. Too simple. I missed you. Too raw. Do you still like drawing horses? Too childish." He eventually lay down but slept only in fragments, waking every hour. Saturday arrived with a hesitant sun, pale and cool. The park was dotted with early spring blooms, daffodils pushing their yellow faces upward, shy tulips still wrapped tight. Birds hopped along the path as if welcoming the day with gossip. Emma arrived first. She wore a soft grey sweater she usually saved for cold evenings, but today it felt like armor. She chose a bench near the fountain and clasped her hands together, breathing slowly. Her eyes skimmed every passerby, searching for a face she might recognize in a grown man. Liam arrived 7 minutes late. He had planned to be early but spent too long debating if bringing a small gift, a pack of lemon drops she had once loved, was too silly. In the end, he brought them, stuffed awkwardly into his jacket pocket. He walked into the park and stopped when he saw her, though he wasn't certain it was her. The woman on the bench had familiar posture, the way she leaned slightly forward as if listening for someone. Her hair was longer, darker than he remembered, but the tilt of her head, yes. That was Emma. He took one step, then another. Emma stood when she saw him approaching. For a moment, neither moved. They simply stared, as if comparing the ghosts they remembered with the people standing in front of them. "Liam," she whispered. He nodded, unable to speak. They met halfway, awkwardly at first, two adults trying to fit into the shapes they had once held as children. Then Emma reached out, lightly touching his sleeve. When he didn't pull back, she wrapped her arms around him, and he collapsed into her embrace, burying his face against her shoulder. "I missed you," she said into his hair. His reply was muffled, but she heard it. "I never stopped looking." They stood that way for a long moment, the fountain splashing gently behind them, the park oblivious to the reunion. When they finally sat down, both were smiling cautiously, like people afraid a sudden movement might break the spell. "You're taller," Emma said, which made Liam laugh, an unexpectedly warm sound. "You're older," he teased. But in a good way. She rolled her eyes. "Wow, thank you." Conversation flowed slowly at first, then steadily, like a river warming into spring. They spoke of foster homes, of favorite teachers, of tiny memories that didn't matter to anyone else but meant everything to them. How Emma had once convinced Liam their bunk beds were pirate ship decks, how he had insisted their stuffed animals took turns guarding the room at night. At one point, Emma asked softly, "Did you think about me?" "Over the years?" "Every day," Liam said. "I tried not to, sometimes. Thought it would hurt less. But it never did." Emma's eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "I'm so sorry. I tried to find you, too. They told me you were moved, then moved again, then records got mixed up. I thought maybe you didn't want to see me." "Never," he said fiercely. A group of children ran past, laughing, chasing a runaway kite. Emma and Liam watched them, a shared heaviness settling between them, not sorrow but something gentler. A realization of the childhood they had lost, but also the new beginning they were carefully constructing. They spent hours walking the park, talking until their voices grew hoarse. They marveled at one another's choices in life, Emma's passion for sketching, Liam's plan to study psychology. They were different people now, shaped by years apart, but the core bond remained recognizable, like an old melody they could still hum. When Liam finally remembered the lemon drops, he pulled the packet from his pocket with a sheepish grin. "These used to be your favorite." Emma laughed, a clear, bright sound he didn't realize had missed. "They still are." They shared the candy as the sun dipped low again, glinting off the fountain just as it had all those years ago in the orphanage courtyard. Only now, instead of being torn apart, they were walking side by side toward a future they would build intentionally, piece by piece. By early evening, the air cooled. Lights flickered on across the park, casting golden halos on the path. Emma stopped near the exit gate. "We should meet again," she said. It wasn't a question. "Of course," Liam answered. "I don't ever want to lose you again." She reached for his hand, the same gesture she had made 10 years ago. This time, he took it without fear. They walked toward the street, two silhouettes bound by shared history, ready to rediscover the years taken from them. And though the city around them buzzed with countless stories, theirs glowed quietly in the gathering dusk. A story of separation, survival, and reunion. Proof that even broken threads can be rewoven when two hearts keep pulling toward each other. And so they stepped into the night, not as strangers, and not as the children they once were, but as siblings finally returned to one another, ready to write the pages of a life that would no longer be missing its other half. As the weeks passed after their reunion in the park, Emma and Liam settled into a rhythm that felt both new and strangely familiar. They met every Sunday, sometimes at quiet cafes, sometimes along the river where the water carried the sound of distant boats, and sometimes simply on a long walk where they talked until their legs grew tired. Each meeting peeled back a new layer of memory, of longing, of understanding that neither had allowed themselves to hope for during their lost years. At first, they were careful with one another, as if afraid a wrong word might send the other drifting away again. But slowly, the caution softened into something warmer, steadier, more confident. Emma found that she laughed more easily than she had in years. Liam noticed he no longer startled awake in the middle of the night expecting to feel alone. A sense of peace began to nestle between them, a quiet truth that the world, though imperfect, had finally returned something it owed. One Sunday afternoon, after a long walk through the city, they sat on the stone steps leading down to the riverbank. The sun hovered low, turning the surface of the water gold. Emma hugged her knees, resting her chin lightly on them. Liam leaned back on his palms, breathing in the scent of river reeds and distant street food vendors. "Do you ever wonder," Emma said softly, "what our lives would have been like if we had stayed together?" Liam didn't answer right away. He skimmed a pebble across the water, watching the ripples widen. "All the time," he admitted. "But maybe if things had gone differently, maybe we wouldn't be who we are now." Emma nodded slowly. "I think about that too. Sometimes I'm angry we lost so much time. And sometimes I'm grateful that we survived it at all." Liam looked at her then, a long, steady look. "Emma, I don't want to lose more time. I want you in my life. Not just as someone I meet once a week. I want family. Our family. Whatever shape that takes now." The words shook something loose in her chest. A decade of waiting, of hoping, of fearing the worst. It all welled up and spilled over in warm tears she didn't bother to hide. "I want that too," she whispered. "More than anything." They sat in silence, but it was a full silence, rich with meaning. A silence that felt like a promise. Over the next months, their lives intertwined with a natural ease, as though the 10-year gap were a bridge they simply chose to cross one day. Emma introduced Liam to the bookstore where she worked. He teased her about the towering stacks she insisted weren't disorganized. Liam brought Emma to dinner with his foster family, people who welcomed her with the same open warmth they had given him, and insisted on making a peach cobbler to celebrate family growing. And Emma had laughed but cried later that night when Liam hugged her goodbye. Each new step felt like stitching together a quilt from mismatched pieces of their past. Some frayed, some bright, all meaningful. Still, the shadow of the orphanage lingered in both of them. Memories came unexpectedly, sometimes in dreams, sometimes triggered by a sound, a smell, a turn of phrase. One evening, after a difficult day when an old nightmare had shaken Liam awake, he arrived at Emma's apartment without warning. She didn't ask questions. She simply made tea, sat beside him on the couch, and let him talk when he was ready. And when she had her own hard days, when the guilt of not having protected him returned like a tide, Liam listened with the same patience. Healing, they learned, was not a single moment but a series of small choices repeated over time. Summer arrived softer than expected that year. On the warmest evening of June, They took a train to the town where the old orphanage still stood. It wasn't planned. Emma mentioned she had once dreamed of seeing the place again, not out of anger, but to close a door that had stood open too long. Liam agreed without hesitation. So they went. The orphanage had changed. The bricks had been painted a soft cream color, the windows expanded, the courtyard repaved. A playground stood where their old swings had once creaked in the wind. Children laughed somewhere inside, and for a moment Emma felt a crack in her breath, raw, sharp. Liam touched her shoulder gently. "It's not the same place," he said. "It's just a building now." She nodded, though her throat tightened. They sat on the edge of the new courtyard, watching the shadows lengthen as the sun dipped behind the trees. It felt strange to sit so close to the last place they had seen each other as children, knowing they had returned not as scared kids but as adults who had survived what came after. "I used to imagine this moment," Emma murmured. "Coming back here. I thought it would hurt more." "It does hurt," Liam said. "But it also feels final." She reached for his hand, and he took it without hesitation. Together, they stood, breathed, and let the weight of the past loosen from their shoulders. Not vanish. No, some memories were meant to stay, but soften enough to carry without breaking. As they walked away, the first streetlights flickered on, illuminating the path ahead. The road stretched long and quiet, but it no longer felt lonely. "When we were kids," Liam said suddenly, "you used to tell me that someday, everything would make sense. Do you remember?" Emma smiled faintly. "I said that? I must have sounded very wise." "You did to me," he answered. "And I think you might have been right. Does it make sense now?" She asked, not mocking, not hopeful, just curious. Liam thought for a moment. "Not everything," he admitted. "But enough. Enough to know we're okay. Enough to know we found each other again." Emma breathed out slowly, letting the words settle. "Then that's enough for me too." They continued walking, the warm night air carrying the distant hum of cars, the laughter of families heading home, the whisper of trees shifting in the breeze. Life went on around them, vibrant and ordinary. But for Emma and Liam, every step forward felt quietly extraordinary. They didn't speak for the rest of the walk. They didn't need to. Their silence was the comfortable kind, the kind built from understanding, from shared scars, from a bond reforged and strengthened. When they reached the train station, Liam held the door for Emma. She nudged his shoulder as she passed, a small, familiar gesture that once again made them feel like the siblings they had always been beneath the years apart. The train hummed to life, carrying them toward a future neither had dared to imagine. Not perfect, not simple, but theirs. And as the lights of the town faded behind them, Emma rested her head on Liam's shoulder, whispering, "We're home now, aren't we?" Liam placed his hand over hers. "Yes," he said. "We are."